In this lesson, we're going to take a look at hypothesis testing for one population proportion. All right, just to recall, the reason for conducting a hypothesis test is really to evaluate a claim about a population parameter. And we're going to focus specifically on a hypothesis test for a single proportion in this example. A couple other notes I want to make is that I'm going to use P for the population proportion, a capital P. Other text and other professors will sometimes use the Greek symbol pi for the population proportion. It really depends on what text you're using or who your professor is, okay? So with all hypothesis tests, I've mentioned this before, we have to select the most appropriate hypothesis test for the information that's given. And one of the ways that we do that is we go through and we verify the assumptions, or sometimes called the conditions. And the conditions that I'm going to go through are the ones that are specific to the hypothesis test on one proportion. So the first thing that we have to have in order to do this hypothesis test is we have to have one categorical variable with a defined population proportion in context. Okay, we should also have the hypothesized value of the population proportion as well, but we need to make sure that we meet that criteria, that we're dealing with one categorical variable rather than a quantitative variable, and we're interested in the proportion. Randomization is used to gather the data. We're always going to want to check this, or at least ask that. Part of the reason for the randomization is we're trying to eliminate or reduce as much bias as possible. And we also want to ensure that the sample that we select is representative of the population that we're drawing that sample from. So we want to make sure everything's equally likely to be chosen in order to do the analysis on. And then the last one is a little lengthy. It says the sample size is sufficiently large such that the sampling distribution of the sample proportion p hat is approximately normal. This happens when we have approximately 10 successes and 10 failures, which I give the equations for checking that right there. And we'll go through that in a little bit. But basically, if you think about the conditions or the assumptions, we're really looking at a couple different things. One is there's always something about the variable and the parameter that we're interested in, all right? One of the other conditions or the assumptions is the fact that we're using randomized data. And then the third one always deals with either the size of the sample or the shape of the distribution in order to use the appropriate distribution in order to do this test, okay? So let's take a look at some of the different hypothesis tests and the hypothesis statements. You may have seen this before, but when we do a left tail test, we are looking at a statement that looks similar to this, but it can be written two ways, all right? So I like to focus on the complement rule when I teach, but there are certain situations where we would use the statement down below right here. And just to kind of recap, H sub 0 is always a statement that contains equality, such as greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. And then H sub A is a statement that always contains strict inequality, so like a less than, a not equal to, or a greater than statement. Now, H sub A is the statement that determines which tail we're testing. So I'm showing you right here, H sub A, P is less than P sub 0. That's our hypothesized value, the P sub 0. And so that's indicating, since the arrow points to the left, we're doing a left tail test, all right? So that has everything to do with H sub A and really nothing to do with H sub 0. And for a right tail test, you'll notice that we have H sub A as P is greater than P sub 0. And you can see that the arrow is pointing to the right, and we're looking at a right tail test, and that also identifies the rejection region as well. When we have a not equal to sign, this means we're doing a two-tail test, and typically we see a statement that we believe the proportion is different than some specific value. And when we say different than, it's something other than that value. So it could be smaller than that value, or it could be larger than that value. That's why we're testing two tails in this situation. The test statistic looks like this right here. Again, if you've done hypothesis testing before, it's kind of the same general idea with the test statistic, is we're really comparing the value from the sample to the hypothesized value from the population. And we're trying to see how different those two things are. If they're really different, we're going to have evidence to reject H sub 0, but if they're very similar, they're close in value, we're going to have less evidence to reject H sub 0. In other words, we're going to have evidence that supports H sub A, okay? So we'll get to that, and we're going to take a look at a specific example. The other thing that I want to mention is we're not introducing the binomial test. So if we don't meet that third condition about the sample size being sufficiently large, we're not going to get into the binomial test in this class. We're going to focus on the hypothesis test on one proportion using the Z distribution, okay? So let's take a look at an example. So just to kind of give you a heads up on this, the example, all the stuff that would be general information from that test is going to be in black, and then the solution or the responses are going to be in a blue font. And the scenario is this. We'd like to determine if fewer than 75% of people would continue to watch a TV show after viewing the pilot, which is 4 episodes, on average. So to investigate this statement, we took a simple random sample of 100 people and found that 70 responded that they will continue to watch the TV show, while 30 people responded they will not watch the TV show. And then to evaluate this, we'll use a 0.05 level of significance, okay? So right now I'm just going to define what p hat is. P hat is our sample proportion, and it's the number of successes over the total number of observations that we make. So the successes in this case would be the people that responded that they will continue to watch the TV show. That's what we're interested in. So that's why the sample proportion is 70 out of the total number of people that we surveyed, which is 100. That sample proportion is 0.70, okay? So now when we take a look at the assumptions, we want to go through these to verify that we can actually use this hypothesis test. So the first assumption is that we have one categorical variable with a defined population proportion. So first off, the categorical variable would be the people who will continue to watch the TV show and the people who will not continue to watch the TV show. It's categorical, and it's also a binary type of response. They either meet that criteria or they don't. We're interested in the ones that will continue to watch the TV show. The population proportion is the proportion of all individuals that will continue to watch the TV show. That's what we're interested in, and that's what that population proportion is going to represent. The next assumption is randomization was used to gather the data. As I said earlier, we're trying to eliminate or reduce as much potential bias as possible and ensure that everything that we select from that population is equally likely to be chosen. So in this case, we selected using a simple random sample of 100 individuals. Is the sample size sufficiently large such that the sampling distribution of the sample proportion is approximately normal? This happens when we have at least 10 successes and 10 failures. Now, in order to verify this, we have to know what p sub 0 is, okay? So up here we say we'd like to determine if fewer than 75% of people would continue to watch the TV show after viewing the pilot. This fewer than 75%, that 75% is our hypothesized value of the population proportion, and we're going to express that as a decimal value, so it's going to be 0.75 when I use that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the sample size of 100 and multiply that by the value of p sub 0, which is 0.75. And I have to ensure that that is at least 10 or more. Now, just a real quick note to this is some textbooks use 15. There's a little bit of discrepancy from textbook to textbook, but the book that we're using uses 10, so that's why we're going to stick with this, all right? So 100 times 0.75 is 75, and 75 is indeed at least 10 or more, okay? So this part of the condition is satisfied. We still have to check the number of failures, though, and ensure that part of the condition is satisfied as well. So if p sub 0 represents the successes, 1 minus p sub 0 would represent the failures right there. We're using the complement rule when we do this. So same idea, we're going to take 100 and multiply it by 1 minus 0.75. And when we do the math on that, that comes out to be 30. And 30 successes is at least 10 or more. Okay, so this part of the condition is also satisfied. So we need to satisfy both parts of those conditions in order to use the z-distribution. So the next step is writing our hypothesis statement. In the hypothesis statement, generally we'll get the alternative hypothesis from the problem statement, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And then I'm going to use the complement to formulate the null hypothesis in this case. And that's what I'm going to focus on in this class. Again, I'll talk about other situations actually in class for the other way that we could do. So when you go up here and you look at the problem statement, we say we'd like to determine if fewer than 75% of people would continue to watch the TV show. The fewer than implies less than, so less than 75% of that population proportion. So that's where I'm getting that value from, and H sub A always has to be a statement about strict inequality, and that's why that statement goes there. So this is really saying the population proportion of people that would watch the TV show is less than 75% or fewer than 75%. And this is saying the population proportion of people that would watch the TV show is at least 75%. So that less than sign tells me we're doing a left tail test. So my rejection region is going to be in that left tail. That alpha value is going to be in that left tail right there. And from this point forward, in terms of testing the hypothesis test, we're going to be testing H sub 0. Either there's evidence to support it, or there's evidence not to support it, and that's going to be determined by the test statistic in the decision rule. So let's take a look at this. First of all, our level of significance was given. That's our alpha value of 0.05. That would be the area of the tail that's shaded in blue up here. This Z value at 0.05, that would be the critical value right here that makes up that area. It's the value on this horizontal axis right here that defines that vertical boundary right there to define that area. So that's something we would look up from the Z table if we're doing the critical value approach. In my class, we're going to focus on the p-value approach, but I like to show both of those just in case there's other viewers out here and they want to see the critical value approach as well. So after we do the level of significance side of this, we're going to calculate the test statistic and the p-value. The test statistic is p hat minus p sub 0 divided by the square root of p hat times 1 minus p sub 0, all divided by n. So from here it becomes a plug and chug. We know p hat is 0.70, p sub 0 is 0.75. That comes from the hypothesis statement. That's that value right there. And then the sample size was 100. So I plug those values in, and this is what I get. And when I work that out, I come up with a test statistic of negative 1.155 in terms of that test statistic. Now this test statistic is either going to be my lower or my upper bound. And the way that we determine if it's a lower bound or upper bound is really where this falls and what the alternative hypothesis is telling us. So first off, this test statistic falls on the left side of 0. We don't know if it's in the rejection region or the fail to reject region. We just know it's to the left of 0. Now, with the alternative hypothesis, the arrow is pointing to the left, so it's saying we want to find the area from the left of that test statistic. So our test statistic, regardless of where it falls, let's just say it falls where my cursor is right here, we want to find the area to the left of that. So that means that's going to be my upper bound. My lower bound is going to be a value way over here, which is going to be negative infinity. Since our calculators don't have a negative infinity, I like to use negative 1 million, something really small to kind of drive the point home. And then that's going to go up to that test statistic of negative 1.15. So for calculating my p-value, I have to know that, all right? So I'm going to use the normal CDF. Since I'm using the Z test statistic, I need to use the normal CDF. And I have to input my lower bound, my upper bound, my mean, and my standard deviation. And the mean of the Z distribution is 0, and the standard deviation of the Z distribution is 1. That's why I'm using just 0 and 1 right there. So once I plug those values in, my lower bound of negative 1 million, my upper bound of negative 1.155, and 0 and 1, and I use the normal CDF function on my calculator, that's going to give me my p-value, all right, which is 0.1241. You could also use the standard normal table in order to look up this value. I'm not going to cover this at this time, but it's something you could definitely do to get the result for this. So that's our p-value right there. And basically what we're going to do in the next step is we're going to compare this p-value to that alpha value to make a determination of whether or not we reject or we fail to reject the null hypothesis. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So step 4, our decision rule is this. If our p-value is less than or equal to our alpha value, then we reject H sub 0. This is the p-value approach. So that's the statement, and this is always going to be true when we follow the p-value approach. So since our p-value of 0.1241 is not less than our alpha value of 0.05, we fail to reject H sub 0. So that means there's not evidence to reject our null hypothesis, okay? In other words, there's evidence that our null hypothesis is potentially true. If we were using the critical value approach, I'll just go through this the one time, but we would reject H sub 0 if our test statistic in this case is less than or equal to our critical value of Z at some alpha value, all right? So I'm comparing this time, this test statistic right here to that critical Z value right here of negative 1.645. And we can see that this negative 1.155 is not smaller than negative 1.645, so we would fail to reject H sub 0. Again, I'm not going to focus on this approach to hypothesis testing, but I thought I'd present it just in case you see that in a textbook or in another resource. And then finally, once we make our decision regarding H sub 0, what we're going to do is we're going to state the conclusion. Now, generally, I use the blanket statement. There is blank sufficient evidence to support that blank on average in the population, all right? So you can see what the answer is right now. And I want to talk about why or where we get this information from right here, but that's really H sub A written in words. If you recall, H sub A, if I go up there, it says P is less than 0.75. That P right there represents the population proportion. We said right here the population proportion is the proportion of all individuals that will continue to watch the TV show. All right, and I got that from this information up here from the given statement or the problem state. So when we go down and we look at this, this is saying the population proportion of all people that would continue to watch a TV show is fewer or less than 75%. So I'm just saying that in words right here. The proportion of individuals who will continue to watch the TV show is less than 75%. That's H sub A. There is not evidence to support H sub A. We failed to reject H sub 0, meaning there's not evidence to reject H sub 0. There's evidence that H sub 0 is potentially true, and only one of those two statements can be true, so H sub A has to be the false statement. So since H sub A is the false, or there is not evidence to support H sub A, we're going to say there is not sufficient evidence to support that. The proportion of individuals who will continue to watch the TV show is less than 75% on average in the population. So hopefully this gives you enough information or a basic overview of how to conduct a hypothesis test. We'll continue to look at some other examples in class or via video examples as we move through the course. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Other than that, good luck on hypothesis testing and your assignment.